Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Faces in FinOps podcast, Season 2. If this sounds like a different voice, it is. My name is Colby Garcia on the Cloud Services Partners team here at ProsperOps, hailing from overly sunny San Antonio, Texas, and I will be your host for this second season. Faces in FinOps is about highlighting thought leaders in the cloud financial management space and giving you an inside look into how exactly these leaders are making an impact for their company, but also for the broader FinOps community. Our hope for this season is that, one, if you're a FinOps practitioner and you're collecting AWS, GCP, Azure certs like they're Pokemon, that you'd be able to up your FinOps game by hearing from world-class peers on a regular basis. But the second hope is actually for those who work at a company maybe without a FinOps title. A vast majority of the world's organizations out there are just beginning to foray into FinOps, yet may have massive cloud environments and budgets to manage. So our hope is that if you're an IT engineering or finance leader who's trying to wrangle your cloud environment and budget, you'd start to learn how to take best-in-class FinOps practices and use them in your context. So let's get to it. Today's guest is Chelsea Robertson and Sarah Stone from Trace3. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Hey, Colby. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Before we get into anything business-related, we see each other at FinOps and cloud events, I feel like, every month. I need travel tips or your least favorite airport.
Well, my travel tip is to pack the least amount of stuff that you need. And this is coming from a chronic overpacker. But really what it is if you're, having layovers, you're hauling your suitcase and throwing it up overhead and running through hotel lobbies and trying to make flights, every ounce and pound counts. So I try to pack as lightly as I possibly can. One of the hardest decisions to make is, of course, the shoes. How many shoes can I really fit in my suitcase? And feasibly, what am I going to wear? But that is my travel tip. Everything weighs something, and it is going to pull on your shoulder, affect your back, whatever it is, just pack lightly.
Good tips. Chelsea?
I'd say if you're one of those people who likes to just waltz onto the plane and not have to sit around in the terminal.
Guilty.
I mean, pre-check or even better, clear. Because, those clear folks, they're going right to the front of the line, and it's a little aggravating if you're not one of them. But if you are one of them, beautiful. You don't need to have any lead time.
Plan A, right? Make the flight. That's it.
100%. Okay. Man, I was going to go least favorite airport, but I got to stick with the travel tips and not alienate myself from anyone's favorite airport. So my travel tip is this. Coming back from the AWS Summit in NYC just a couple months ago, American Airlines flight gets canceled, kind of the norm, I'll say. I ended up having to fly direct Spirit Airlines. My first time ever on Spirit Airlines. Very, very scared. It was the only direct flight out that day. It's not as bad as you think, especially because an economy ticket on American costs the same as like a quote-unquote first class on Spirit. So you get this massive seat, you sit in the front, you get special snacks. That's my travel tip. Spirit's not actually that bad if you get the front seat. The front seat.
Did you pack lightly?
Pack light.
I did pack light. I had exactly one backpack. It's New York, right? Like you can't be lugging around a suitcase, although people do it, but I can't. I don't know. So
those are inexperienced travelers. If you see them lugging a bunch of stuff through New York.
100%. Everything you need for New York could fit in a backpack because you can buy whatever else you need there. Well, it's great to have you both on. So you are both senior FinOps consultants at Trace3. For those who might be unaware, give us an idea of who Trace3 is, the mission, and the story behind the company.
Yeah, so Trace3 is a technology company, very much focused on building those long-term relationships with our customers. We've been in the space for over 20 years. We have elite consulting. We focus on engineering and, again, those partnerships that we have. We specialize in data and analytics, cloud security. We also have specialties around innovation, which is very exciting because Trace3 prides itself on really being, at the cutting edge of understanding what new technologies are out there, how we can bring those to the forefront of our customers and those business decisions that they need to make. So for us, it's very much about understanding the market, how these different customers in various industries, their needs are ever changing, and then how do we come in and provide that special service with them and really build that long-term relationship with them.
Absolutely makes sense. Let's throw it over to you, Chelsea. What type of companies do you all support, and with what besides FinOps?
Yeah, so I mean, we have a very fun answer, which is all companies. So across Trace3, we have the capability to support companies in on all industries, um, all kinds of areas that they're looking to work on. And yeah, I mean, within specifically FinOps also, we do companies across like biomedical, we're in entertainment industry, manufacturing, and then all sizes. So we see companies that are very small and like very a couple years into their cloud journey up to the ones that are spending tens of millions of dollars, sometimes a month, across in multi-cloud environments. So there's really no limit, and that's part of the fun part about working here is that we are able to meet them where they're at. That's a big thing for us, and we have the ability to provide the level of resources that a very advanced company needs, as well as a company that's newer to their journey and is looking for resources to help them really kind of improve where they're at.
Absolutely. So, range of services: IT consulting, cloud solutions, data intelligence, cybersecurity, enterprise networking. I mean, you all run the gamut when it comes to helping companies optimize, modernize their IT infrastructure. Makes a lot of sense.
Exactly. And that's also part of the reason why I think Chelsea and I both find this space very exciting, is because there's always something to learn. There's always a new challenge to meet head on and, try and address. And those conversations that we get to have every day with our customers really, help us to level up our skill sets and make sure that we stay sharp, and build a team of people that, really understands, those unique challenges and focus areas for customers.
Absolutely. Now, within this space, I mean, as you think about, and as I think about even competitors of Trace3 that I've run into,
we don't know. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, there's none. You're all that there is. But I think you'd be hard pressed to find another company that's focused on FinOps specifically as much as Trace3 has. I mean, your team is robust and diverse. Why do you think that is? Like, truly, if I think about other IT consultancies, like, there's not always as big of a focus on FinOps. So why do you think Trace3 made the bet where others haven't?
Well, this is very interesting because we didn't really know how we were differentiating in that way when we first kind of came into this space. So just a little bit of history about the Trace3's FinOps team to kind of maybe help couch why we are, kind of leaders in this space right now, and how we work with such an array of customers. We have been doing FinOps or cost optimization for the last 7+ years. We were part of a company called Groupware Technology out of Northern California. And then we were acquired by Trace3 in 2020. And essentially that was kind of when everyone started that massive push to the cloud with the COVID, the pandemic, and all these different drivers and, circumstances outside of anyone's prediction abilities and so now suddenly everybody's in the cloud. And I joined at the end of 2020, so about 4 years ago. And when I started, we were simply doing, we had just a service around cloud resale. We were doing, basic analysis around what the environments look like, where their spend is. And now what we've done is we've been able to transform even just the level of service that we bring to customers, because we've seen such a scaling happening. Their maturity has transformed. But I think as soon as we heard about the FinOps book, we all went out, we got the book, we read it, met every single week on a chapter. We had like our little book club meetings as a team, and we got certified. Everybody got certified. Everybody who joins our team gets certified as a FinOps practitioner. We really saw that this was more than just, a tool or like a one-hit wonder type of thing. It was very much something that was all encompassing and touched all parts of an organization. So of course, you have your finance folks, you have your engineering teams, you have your product managers, you have your stakeholders and executives, and now they're being tasked with huge decisions around spending and budgets in the cloud. And it's not just, efficiency and, innovation and time to market and all those things, but it's also about the business side and how do you ensure that the company stays profitable. And you can very quickly become unprofitable if you don't understand your cloud spend. You're up against mindsets and challenges around, well, this isn't how it worked when we did on-prem budgeting and procurement. That process is completely destroyed, right, when it comes to understanding the variable spend model. And so I think we saw right away that this was something different. We wanted to master this area and really dig into these challenges. And as Chelsea pointed out, the challenges for a healthcare organization versus a financial services versus manufacturing, there's similarities, of course, but they also have unique sort of drivers and requirements that force us to really understand how do we tailor FinOps for this particular customer and their use cases.
Yeah, I'd add also where we are positioned within Trace3 is we're under the Cloud Solutions Group. So that's a large team of architects and engineers, and we have a lot of expertise in cloud in that architectural area, and we're able to pair up and like join forces with them. So a lot of times we do projects that are we're collaborating together, and we can bring like the cost optimization angle, they bring the design and the strategy and the implementation. And so that's a really strong partnership that we've built out. And so that's another way that we've really grown over the last couple of years.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah. I do want to come back to, you had mentioned kind of the multi-department facet of FinOps and the fact that you're going between so many different parts of the business. You did mention the services that Trace3 provides as well, which I want to cover. Before we get to either of those, no one seems to get into FinOps on purpose. I want to hear, how did each of you get into this field?
Oh, well, certainly we didn't know. That is the coolest thing, I think, is everybody that I've met in this space has such a different type of background or career path, experience, whether they're technical or non-technical. I think FinOps is one of those areas that has really, for both Chelsea and I know she would agree that this has accelerated our careers in such a wonderful and fantastic way. We've been able to take our experiences from a very different type of background and bring that to this space. And I think it has allowed us some unique perspectives. So some backstory there is Chelsea and I actually met while working together at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Yeah.
Why would you ever leave?
I know. It's very hot in DC, so I actually left.
So hot.
No, I was there for 6 years, and I started out early in my career working at one of the specific museums called the National Postal Museum. So I actually know a lot about stamps.
And philatelists, right, which is a stamp collector.
Is love of stamps. Philately, yes.
Philately. The word I wish I hadn't learned. Okay, give me a fun stamp fact.
Okay, well, let's see. One of the biggest artifacts that we had in that museum was the inverted Jenny, which is an airplane that was printed incorrectly by the U.S. Department of Engraving or Bureau of Engraving, whatever the title is. And so there was only one stamp sheet that was printed before they realized their mistake. And what makes a stamp, I can't believe I remember all this stuff. What makes a stamp so valuable or, worth a lot of money is that, of course, there's not a lot of them, right? And that, they're rare. So this got printed and put out. It was, actually in Washington, D.C., next to Union Station is the post office, one of the United States postal offices there. And they distributed to, I can't remember the guy's name. I should know this, but he basically realized what he had found and the transaction had already happened. And the postal worker was trying to get the stamps back because he realized there was a mistake. So this guy basically evaded the postal inspectors by riding the trolley system through DC to escape, anyone trying to get this. And then he sold it. It was back in the 1800s, and he sold it. And I think it was like he was able to buy his family a new house. He put his daughter through college, something like that. It was pretty cool. But we have one of them on display in that museum. And I think there's only 3 out there, maybe 4 that are, unknown. They don't know the whereabouts. But basically it's an upside down airplane that was printed incorrectly. So
that is incredible. It's incredible that you remember that story so well. I mean, how many times did you have to tell it before you left?
I don't know. Sometimes I remember random things like this. I like the history. But at that point, when I was working there, it was, working very closely with donors and running events. And I worked in this system to basically do all, projections with the different fundraising opportunities that were coming in, how to get projects going or exhibits. And then I moved into the advancement office, which is the centralized fundraising team. And we supported all 29 museums and research centers across the Smithsonian's, system or ecosystem, whatever. But that's where Chelsea and I met. And we really just had an amazing experience supporting these different museums and helping them really understand kind of what they were working towards and how do we get those different projects funded.
Yeah, I was there 7 years, so a little bit longer than Sarah, and I was there providing a centralized role specifically around like data. So supporting the membership programs at all the different museums. I guess like there's a fun fact, like I think people know about maybe like the 8 museums in DC off the mall, but Smithsonian actually has like 21 research facilities and museums in like far corners of the world. Wow. So there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than like those public, like front facing museums that folks are really familiar with. So in that job, we supported, all the different membership programs. They all kind of operated independently to an extent. So part of our role was like getting to know the culture there and like supporting them in their needs, but also like the big picture for the good of the entire organization. So it just goes back to like culture, collaborating, talking to all different kinds of groups, and being able to like facilitate conversations, which translates so well to FinOps. And Sarah had reached out to me and was like, hey, I think you'd really like this role. Like I'm doing this thing FinOps. And I was like, what in the world is FinOps? Like they're new to me, I think we're all there at some point. So I came over here, working with Sarah, she has incredible work ethic and vision. She's like a strategy person. So, I knew I wanted to be with her. And then also looking at what FinOps is, you can see it's very clear that is an expanding and there's a huge need for people who are doing that kind of work. So it just kind of made no sense. It was a no-brainer to jump over here. And I love Trace3. It's been a great move.
Absolutely.
And I will say also our team, they each bring a unique background as well. So nobody had direct experience in the sense of like, I was doing FinOps previously. Not yet. But that's because, really FinOps has just kind of expanded in the last few years. You have folks that are coming out of college and they're trying to get certifications and things like that and really understand, what does this landscape look like? And I think that we have such a great team of people with complementary skill sets, and it all works. And that's very exciting to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some people come to FinOps from the engineering background, from the IT side of things, from the finance. Some come to it from the museum side of things.
Anthropology, psychology, sociology. We have all
Absolutely.
those. It's a people industry. So, got to have both sides of the coin, like those technical minds and then those like kind of like people skills minds, like meshing.
100%.
I think you end up really appreciating the differences. We have a lot of folks on our team who do have that engineering and more technical acumen that they dig into a problem a different way than someone who has more of a finance or an analytical perspective that they bring. And then talking through a unique situation or challenge with a customer, you're getting different types of solutions and approaches to figure out what's the best way to solve this.
Yep. It's really good to hear. So thinking of the people aspect, I'd actually love to hear from each of you. What's your role within the FinOps organization of Trace3 today? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis? What does it look like as you're working with customers? Sarah, I know that you handle some more of the pre-FinOps client side of things, so maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. So my role has evolved when I was first on the team and we're building out this whole service around what it is that we're actually providing our customers. I was focused on building out a nice, solid customer success model. And what that means to me is that we're trying to have at every turn with the relationship with the customer high value. And that means that our service needs to evolve. And so then as the team grew and expanded, we hired people to help deliver those services, people like Chelsea, of course, a few other folks. My role kind of switched into the earlier stages of when we bring in a customer, understanding those unique requirements, also working with the vendors and partners in the space. What do they bring to the table as certain differentiators and capabilities, and how do those specifically align to customer use cases? So what I really like to get into with a customer is, in that initial discovery period, what are those pain points? What are those conversations that you're having internally? What do your stakeholders need to see? How can we empower you within your organization, help you to be as efficient as possible, focused on the priorities, and making sure that we're taking FinOps as an iterative approach and not, Chelsea and I were chatting about this. One of the biggest things that we see is, FinOps is not one little thing you can just check off the list and you do it one time. If you have that mindset, you have to change it immediately, because this is with you forever now. You have to do FinOps to be successful in the way that you run your organization, and those relationships with cloud providers, again, with vendors and partners, with your own customers. Those are the types of things that all kind of come out of this FinOps space and what we do. So that's kind of what I do more now, is really just aligning the requirements to what does that look like from a services side?
And then I pick it up when the customer is, going to engage with us, and I get to get down to brass tacks with them, really. So we are in that, what we call our Jumpstart program, is we do kind of like an immersive experience where we're doing discovery, we're getting to know the folks that are doing the work, we're establishing timelines and a little more the project management kind of aspect. And then I have some clients that have been with us for a long, long time, right? That's what we love. We like having people that are with us and we've been with them on their journey for years and years and years. So with those folks, we'll have regular check-ins where we're doing things like reviewing their spend since we last met, like looking at their forecasting models, like if there was a variance in what they anticipated spending, like why the variance, digging into any cost anomalies that had come up. We do a lot of reporting support. So there's a lot of making sure that you have the reports for like product owners and business leaders. We support like QBRs. So we're putting together those that data to roll up to whoever it is that is consuming it. And another thing that I do is speak to those individual DevOps teams, those product teams, and help them get where they need to be, get visibility into their piece of the infrastructure. So it's not just talking to like the same person every time we meet. It's really like we really get to know a lot of folks across the organization in an ideal state, right? Like sometimes it is working towards that. Like what does adoption look like? How do we get people excited and like want to engage with us? How do we get small wins? So it's a variety. And it's the part that I love is just really, really getting to know them and like augment and support and enhance or develop capabilities where they need it, where they're asking for help.
Incredible. You mentioned reviewing spend, forecasting models, reporting support, imagining the end goal of full adoption. If I'm a FinOps team of one, or if I'm, let's call it even like a CFO or a CIO who doesn't have a FinOps team, what's your advice on where do I get started trying to understand my cloud environment and cloud budget?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, of course, we start with visibility. I mean, what are the tools that you're using today? Like, what is the level of granularity that you have? Are you seeing the spend just like at the end of the month? Are you like reviewing it week to week? I'd say also starting to understand like who else might want to be involved and who has a stake in what that cloud cost is, and just kind of, socializing it across the company, because getting FinOps rolling is it's really a cultural movement when it comes down to it. So having some like champions that are going to try like join you on your journey, I guess that's more of like the strategic part, but technically we really just like start small and say like, okay, do we have all of your spend? Like, what are all of the places that we want to see cost from? And really like starting to march through like the baby steps is where you start. I'll say don't boil the ocean. You gotta throw that in there.
I mean,
Absolutely.
one thing that I've noticed too is, like you said, Chelsea, starting small, but then also finding your key folks within the organization, one or two application owners, teams that kind of understand the value of what the FinOps team is doing, and positioning that FinOps team as an ally to those different groups. And you have to get some good PR going internally. You want to show the organization that you're there to support its cost savings, its efficiency, it's that unit economics, and really understanding what's driving the business value. And then we always focus on the positives, right? How can we elevate those teams that have taken those actions, understand the implications of some of the remediation efforts, that this isn't an overnight change, but that they see the end goal and they want to work together. And so focusing on those one or two groups that are really taking that to heart and doing that good work and elevating them within the organization. Also, kind of that good positive vibe just spreads and more people want to be a part of that.
Really good to hear. So what I'm hearing is visibility, first and foremost. What's even going on? What are the tools that we're using today? What's the level of granularity we have? And then it's the socializing FinOps and finding champions, right? Straight out of the book. You're going to need multiple heads. Rarely will you find a person who's multifaceted and deeply understands the financial angle, the product angle, the engineering angle of what we're building all at the same time. So really cool to hear that Trace3 is such a good partner in these regards. Anything else to share on? I mean, I'd love to hear when you see an organization doing whatever it might be, visibility, cost management, really, really well. What are you seeing from like world-class organizations that still come to Trace3 saying, hey, we need help in this area? Like what's most common for companies to have already accomplished by the time they get to you all?
Yeah, I can take that one. I'd say when we see companies that are very mature and they have great visibility and they have a lot of like dashboarding built out, they have really good processes for like rate optimization and like usage optimization, like finding those recommendations. Oftentimes it's like, how do we get more adoption? How do we get people to know about the great things that we're doing, how much money we've saved, and get people to be more maybe proactive and just utilizing all the tools that the FinOps team has to offer. So in a lot of ways at these really mature organizations, the FinOps team is like kind of functioning like a managed service provider, like within the company. So we get into like marketing, ways to like reach out to different audiences and just get people more engaged. And oftentimes it just takes them being aware of what's going on within the FinOps team and how they can support them. So that, I think that would be a top thing that we see is like you have a really great processes established. You have everything in place, but you really need to, the next step is like getting more people on board with what you're doing. I'm sorry if you can hear my dogs barking.
It's okay. It's like 101 Dalmatians behind you. We,
You wouldn't know it.
that's okay. So Chelsea, if I read back to you what you're saying, a team that's world class could come to you with usage optimization, rate optimization figured out, but it's harder to find a team who has gotten it adopted across their entire organization. Your growth's going to be hampered by the actual socialization of FinOps, right? I can do my best job of rate optimization, but if my engineering team isn't fully on board or aware of what we're doing, right, that's only going to do so much for me. That's fascinating. Anything to add?
I would say one other thing is, if you're getting all these wins, and like, for example, the procurement and finance folks don't understand that, say, maybe you've captured 10% savings, which translates to, let's just say, $500,000. How does that come back to that organization? What's the reward, I'll say? Some organizations we've seen will support hiring a new resource or upgrading tooling. Where we see it fall through is when somebody in the finance and that decision gets made that, okay, well, we got these savings, this is what we need. Now nothing happens to sort of reward that. And then it kind of becomes this more disconnect. It's just a little bit more negative, and it takes more conversations to really help bring those teams together. I've seen it where a FinOps team loses resources or, is kind of put in handcuffs basically when it comes to trying to make those efforts and those changes. And, part of me wonders, if who's communicating. Did you take the time to build those relationships within those different departments and teams? And I think what Chelsea and I have learned is that this really boils down to, the human factor. And you can have all these successes, but if no one knows about them and if it doesn't result in anything, then it's not going to have the longevity that you need. And really being able to boil that back up to the top and show that you're meeting specific KPIs and you're driving the business forward and you're aligning to those objectives, that is the key. How can we help our customers make those specific business cases within their organization? That's a very unique challenge, and I think it gets more difficult when in an enterprise space there's typically more silos. So that's a challenge.
Yeah, I'd add also you mentioned KPIs, and that's a great thing. Like, I don't think we've seen a lot of different variations in like KPIs and what you're reporting up to measure progress. I feel like there's really, really good processes established around like savings reporting and capturing like opportunity versus action and dismissed in this kind of area. But then when it comes to metrics like your effective savings rate and like percent tagging compliance and things like this, and be able to, you have a standardized way of how do you calculate those metrics and then capturing them over time. And this goes back to communicating and capturing the value of a FinOps team in a way that sometimes like you just really need to have your KPIs and those metrics. And like the FinOps foundation is really, really coming out strong in that area. I think that focus is going to really help to establish, because they have these KPI use cases that they've established. It's like very like logical, like this is the calculation for this metric. So we are working to help companies adopt and expand their metrics. Oftentimes we see like 2 or 3, and they really are working towards like having like 5 for the next year. So I'd say
absolutely,
yeah, that's another area that we often comes up with some of these larger, more established FinOps teams.
Yeah. When you Trace3 serves some very large organizations, and so when you start to get into that Fortune 1000 space, I mean, things that we've noticed here at ProsperOps is mergers and acquisitions. You're gathering companies and smashing together different levels of FinOps maturities, right? There's international nuances to using the public cloud within different areas of the world. Data residency challenges, it becomes more difficult to your point, centrally manage all this stuff. There's so many departments that cloud decisions need to be dispersed between. So FinOps people having a voice in all those units becomes really, really key, right? Especially if you're competing with, I think Sarah had mentioned this earlier, other older school frameworks, ITAM, PMO, IFTM, which is more of a DevOps framework, but FinOps is its own framework, and having a seat at the table is so important when you have to be so multifaceted. You can't be in a silo, and the larger your company gets, the more hands in the cookie jar, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, really well put. We do have, yeah, we certainly have companies that we work closely with who they have a FinOps team based in the US, and they have a FinOps team that's based in like in Europe somewhere. So like time zones and like data governance and data privacy, and they have so many things are almost operating completely independently, but they have to report up and have normalized reporting across the two. And so that's where us as consultants, sometimes we can come in and like help, be that bridge and do some of that work to normalize the data across. And yeah, I mean, bridging the two companies or three, and sometimes that are in different time zones, is a challenge. Yeah, and not abnormal with the global economy. So
Yeah, the acquisition piece is very interesting and something that we've always talked about as a team, even just when companies were moving into the cloud. They were like, we have a plan to start slowly and methodically and building out and migrating our workloads, or some just did lift and shift, of course. But then a year into their cloud journey, now they're acquiring another company or another company or another company. And now they're multi-cloud. Their tagging strategy is useless because it applied to this one particular situation. So what we can do with customers is really get in right away, help them ramp up, and kind of bring everybody to the table and say, we're going to take care of these 1, 2, 3 priorities, and then we'll start to build from there. And we have a lot of experience with customers that have gone through rapid acquisition, or of course leadership changes. One CTO is focused on this type of technology, and then the next person that comes in, it changes the whole strategy. And as Chelsea mentioned earlier, what our team brings is that continuity. We have those longstanding relationships within the customers to, what's their resource, what's their trend data look like, what are they looking for the future? How do we help them with some of those executive briefings that they need to have with those stakeholders to, of course, goes back to the relationship building, right? You got to have buy-in within the organization to position this team, this FinOps team, as an ally to stakeholders, to engineering teams, to your finance folks, product. That is most certainly the unique challenge that we see. And I don't think it'll change. I think that will just always be a situation where you're going to be bringing in different ideas or ways to do something, or this is how I did it, or this is how we've always done it, or this is how we should be doing it. And then what's the actual decision?
We've talked about a lot. Chelsea, you are known within the FinOps industry for being like the queen of FinOps tooling, of which there is a ton. At least that's what I'm personally calling you. Tell us about what's out there. What technologies and tools are you most excited about? Where is FinOps strongest, weakest? What's your thought on the landscape, and what are you excited about?
yeah, thank you for this question, because yes, it is a passion area of mine. And over the past year and a half, we've put a lot of emphasis on knowing what all those tools are in the landscape. And so I think it's safe to say that we've done an evaluation of upwards of like 60. So we're talking like cloud cost management and optimization tools, of which there are, I don't know, I'd say about like 25 or so. And then there are all these tools that we are really excited about that have kind of niche areas that they're solving that are not competing directly with the visibility tools, but they're offering things like Kubernetes optimization, things that specialize in cost allocation for Kubernetes, because that's a really tough area. Things like RI and rate commitment optimization, automation is neat, and then usage optimization, automation. So things that are kind of running in the background and like doing like underutilized resource cleanups. So I think at this point, the ones that we are very excited about are the ones that are finding like these very specific pain points and solving for them in really creative and innovative ways. So there's a lot of tools that are emerging in this space, and it can be overwhelming for a customer. You see all of these really cool things that are out there, but When it comes down to it, there is no one size fits all, right? And maybe there is one tool in particular that fits your needs at a certain point, but more often than not, it is a package deal. So there's going to be a few tools that all fit together and work together to provide that comprehensive and holistic solution for your company. So
I think I heard in the FinOps survey that on average, customers are using 3 tools, between 2 and 3 tools at his minimum.
yeah,
That was one of the questions, if I recall correctly, but it's definitely not one.
no, yeah, and oftentimes when we're speaking with clients, they are maybe looking to find another tool. They want to understand what's out there, and we have a service offering that is essentially like a tooling assessment. So we really get down into the nitty gritty of like, what is it exactly that this tool does? What does it look like on day one? And then not only just like feature and capabilities that it has, but also those kind of intangibles like how much investment does this company have into this product if it's one of in like a portfolio, what kind of support systems are built out, what's the development velocity, are there any acquisitions on the horizon, just like all these things that you want to know before you go in and adopt a new tool. So I really like that aspect of our job, and it's coming up more and more as companies are getting bigger. Maybe the cloud solution provider native tools, while the native tools, I'll say, are really growing in their capabilities. They're doing some really neat things. Sometimes, especially being multi-cloud, you are looking for like third-party solutions.
Chelsea, I want to put you on the spot. This idea just came to me. We can cut this if it doesn't go well. So I had a friend of mine in the industry came to me this week, actually, wanting help with S3 storage optimization, kind of EBS optimization. You're the one who's seen all the tools. I mean, is that a tool solving challenge? Is that a partner needs to solve that challenge with some work? How do you optimize for that specific area? Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, that's really neat. Like I didn't even mention storage optimization, but yeah, I mean, there are quite a few, like top of my head, I think of like Cohesity and Pure Storage are tools that specialize specifically in storage optimization. So we can do also storage, retiering. We've seen some tools that are saying like taking a look at utilization of like specifically our S3 buckets and saying like maybe you should consider moving this to like a Glacier archive or like infrequent access, and like this is how much money you could save just by moving this amount of data. So yeah, that's a really good point, and that's an emerging space too. I think that the third-party tools, there are some niche products focusing on that. We've seen them moving. Sometimes it is moving data out of S3 and like into something different, or within specifically AWS, they have a lot of offerings around optimizing storage, and there's tools out there now that can help assess your utilization and make a recommendation about where to move that data. And also you need to take into consideration the cost of moving data, because you don't want to get like a surprise for, migrating all that data. You have like the data process charges. So another element.
You crushed that. That was incredible. I was fully prepared for us to not have an answer to that.
Queen is the correct title. Just
Absolutely.
Like, dang it, I didn't even mention storage optimization, because that's another big thing. Like it's usually like within the top 3 cost drivers within a company, and like we're really good on compute. Networking, I think, is also another big area that there's not a whole lot of tooling to support like networking optimization. That's a challenging one, but then storage, definitely seeing more ways to support increasing efficiency and optimization for storage.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Like, actually, I couldn't have. Yeah, that was perfect. Well, I know that we're running out of time. Thank you both for jumping on with us today. I'd love to, before we exit, give you all kind of the mic. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you see as a unique challenge within FinOps? Chelsea, you had mentioned focus, which was a massive topic when the three of us were together at FinOps X in San Diego. Was there anything else you heard or saw at FinOps X that you found particularly interesting?
Yeah, I had some great conversations around FinOps for AI. So what that looks like is, okay, we're training models. We have all this cost associated with our AI workload development, and how do we do cost allocation, and what are some of our options for having like fixed rate costs, because understanding things like GPU units, and some of the providers, I think all of the providers actually have this provision throughput option where you're paying for it's a monthly subscription for a specific number of like Gen AI scale units. So essentially you're making an upfront commitment. And there's not a whole lot of consensus on how you do cost allocation for something like that. Like who is consuming the most throughput, and then how do we do a chargeback? So you'll see like a huge upfront cost. It can be like $200,000 for the month, and then you don't really have good visibility outside of logging into who is doing the consumption of it. So this is like a new shared cost allocation challenge related to AI workloads.
I think from what we were talking about, you all have been every year. Is that correct?
Yeah, we were in the inaugural one back in, I think it was 2022, in steamy Austin, Texas. But that was amazing, really great to see the progression of, the space, and, getting to hang out with our fellow practitioners. And very excitingly, this year in 2024, Trace3 joined the FinOps Foundation as a corporate member. So that's something that we are so proud of, and to really be partnering with such a fantastic organization that really focuses on the community and building out best practices and really having that grassroots approach to, driving the industry forward. I thought there was some really great keynote speakers. There was the Disney conversation, the presentation by Uber. I felt that those, those two folks were able to share those very, it's a major challenge, right? Something like, how does Disney predict how much they're going to spend in the cloud, right? I thought, this is something that we have to dig in with customers and understand what are those true cost drivers. And then how do you take advantage of the discounts that are available to you through those long-term commitments with the cloud providers, GCP, Azure, AWS. There's tons of negotiation that has to go into this. We want to help customers take advantage and leverage those discounts, get as accurate as possible when it comes to understanding their cloud spend. And then partnering with the cloud providers alongside of our customers to really make sure that everybody's on the same page and understands what that looks like in the long term. And of course, the customers that are and the businesses that are entering this AI space, to Chelsea's point, what is the visibility of those AI drivers, right? And the cost increases that result from that. That is most certainly, we're entering this new kind of space together. We are learning every day from the different, practitioners that are also trying to address these challenges within their organizations. But I would say that those were some key conversations that really helped me from that conference. And so, yeah, it was cool to see that we are all in the same boat.
Really, really great points. Forecasting usage is so extremely difficult, especially at scale. You've got moving pieces within a changing business. EDPs, PPAs are based on usage minimums, which even further complicates your spend into being wasteful or optimized, depending on what happens in that contract that comes up every couple of years. So I cannot think of a better reason to have a partner in all this like Trace3. Really, really good thoughts. Well, we're running out of time. We've got two last questions for you all. You've got a big event coming up. Tell us a little bit about Trace3's Evolve event.
Yeah, this is super exciting. So every year, Trace3 hosts what they call the Evolve Conference in Las Vegas. And this conference is our premier event. We bring together all of our customers, our partners, and it's all about the latest in the technology space, innovation, the challenges that customers are facing today. What does the market look like? What are some industry best practices? Healthcare, financial services, and then how do we bring these folks together in the same room and work towards setting new standards and addressing these challenges head on. So very excited. This is in September, so looking forward to seeing some folks there.
It's been so fun having you all on Faces in FinOps. Before we go, you're on an island. You've got an OG iPod, so think a little scrolling wheel, right? What two songs on this deserted island are you listening to? Or bands?
So I'm going to say No Scrubs by TLC.
Great choice.
And Santeria by Sublime. And I'm going to go listen to those on repeat right after this.
Oh, that's great.
Great question.
I really need my iPod to also come with sunscreen because if I'm on an island, I don't got much time before I am crispy. I gotta say, back in the day, my iPod had a lot of Fall Out Boy on there. Definitely the first album, I would put that on there, and Led Zeppelin was just classic. I never get tired of it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, great choices from you both. Chelsea, I have to say, Santeria is a great, actually, we got the chance to do this recently, is a great choice for a karaoke song. Not a good singer, but people will start to yell the words along with you, so it covers your own.
That helps.
It helps so much. So I'm with you both on those. I think my choices would probably be Smooth by Santana. I love me some late 90s Santana. Yes. And then I have to Skater Boy by Avril Lavigne. That was definitely, I don't know if that's a bit embarrassing, but it's just such a good song. I mean,
that's gonna be in your head the whole time.
100%. Another good karaoke song. All right, well, it's been great having you both. This is Faces in FinOps, Chelsea Robertson and Sarah Stone from the Trace3 FinOps team. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Great, Colby. Thank you.